like to introduce Shona Robison MSP. Shona is the Cabinet Secretary for Social Justice, Housing and Local Government, and she was appointed to that post in May 2021. She was MSP for the North East from 1999 to 2003 and elected MSP for Dundee East in 2003. She was re-elected in May 2011 and appointed as Cabinet Secretary for Health and Sport in May 2016. So been in government for a while, and I'd like to ask Shona to come and talk to us about the contribution that bringing empty homes back into use can make to improving both social housing, economic and social well-being in Scotland. So over to you, Shona. If we've got time, we may have a few questions afterwards, if you're okay with that.
I'm fine with that, yep. Thanks very much, Jim. Thanks, Jim, and it's good to see you all, and good to see you again, Jerry. It was a good conference up at Burnham, and very much similar themes coming out at various events that I've been speaking at. What a great building this is. Ladies, if you get a chance to go to the toilet, definitely do that, because they're just quite a spectacle in themselves. It's absolutely fabulous. And a great theme for today: repair, reuse and revitalise. I like that a lot. And I suppose I can't really understate the vital importance of making better use of our existing stock. And that's essential, not least if we're going to realise our ambitions on net zero and, of course, the provision of quality housing. And there's a lot of good work taking place. I heard a bit about that from Jerry about Stirling, but there's good practice and good things happening across the whole of Scotland. The scale of the challenge, though, is ever greater, with many issues adding to housing pressures, whether that's the cost of living crisis, increasing homelessness for all of the reasons that we understand, and the need to provide settled accommodation, to name but a few. So unlocking empty homes, and more of them, needs to be part of the solution, and we all need to step up our endeavours, our collective endeavours, if we're going to be able to deliver our aspirations for everyone to have a safe, warm home to live in. So I want to focus on two areas today. I want to give a quick overview of some of the work that is taking place nationally that I hope will be of interest. And then, building on that, I want to talk about the importance of partnership working and the new strategic empty homes framework being launched today. I think, as we all know, tackling empty homes and returning them to use as warm, safe and secure housing is, of course, a priority. And the reasons why homes become and stay empty are multifaceted. We know that. Unlocking them sometimes takes time and perseverance, with relationship building often the key to success. The Scottish Empty Homes Partnership and our dedicated Empty Homes officers continue to deliver great results, and I want to give a big thank you to the work that they are doing. And you have a record that you should be proud of, because more than 8,000 homes have been returned to use, and that is impressive. And looking to the future, Housing to 2040 envisages a Scotland where no homes are left empty without good reason. And as a first step, we've commissioned an independent empty homes audit. We'll gather evidence to better understand the scale of the problem, the effectiveness of the current interventions that we have, and views to help shape future policy and future funding. So the researchers are engaging with local authorities, wider stakeholders and empty home owners themselves. And the initial surveys are live, and there'll be an opportunity to get involved in more in-depth evidence gathering at a later stage. But what I would encourage you to do is to participate where you can, so that we can benefit from your wealth of knowledge, your expertise and your ideas. And I'm looking forward to considering the findings in the summer. Before I move on to talk about some of the important wider issues, I want to touch on the issue of enforcement. And this has been a recent topic of great interest. There's been a lot of calls for new enforcement measures to tackle empty homes that are the cause of considerable blight, as Jerry mentioned earlier. And I know there's some hesitance from many local authorities to use compulsory purchase. And that's why we're committed to modernising the process to really make it clearer, fairer and faster for all parties. I'm also aware that some local authorities like Glasgow, for example, are making great use of compulsory purchase and have been sharing their learning with their peers. Now, I actually visited, it was last year, some of the work that they've been doing, particularly within the Govan Hill area of Glasgow. I have to say, I mean, Dundee has some properties that are, have fallen into disrepair, and there are some closes where the council are working to try and bring up the standard of repair. But I have not seen anything quite on the scale of some of the problems that were concentrated in the Govan Hill area. I mean, poor quality standard is a complete underestimation of what was there. I mean, really poor quality housing that some people under the radar in some cases were living in squalor, to be honest. Together, the council with predominantly Govan Hill Housing Association got in and about that. Now, I think it took a fair amount of time and a lot of legal issues and pursuing legal avenues with owners. And I think it took probably about 5 years for the first successful compulsory purchase order to go through. But I think what happened, won't surprise you, that once owners and landlords saw the direction of travel, of success of that, then they all were a bit more willing to come to the table and discuss potential sales, and were a bit more willing to cooperate and communicate. And I guess why I'm telling you that is it shows it can be done. It's not always easy, and that's why we're looking at making it easier. But I do hope that the success in that area of Glasgow does encourage others to make better use of the current system while wider reforms are progressed. And I'm keen to see more cases coming forward, because we can't allow that standard of housing to exist. I think Scotland's leading the way in the delivery of affordable homes across the UK. We've got more to do, but we've got a good success record. Over 115,000 affordable homes have been delivered since 2007, and over 81,000 of these were for social rent. We have a big investment programme, £3.5 billion available in this parliamentary term towards the delivery of more affordable and social homes for people in need. We have a target of a further 110,000 affordable homes by 2032, 70% of these at least for social rent, and 10% to be located at least in remote, rural and island communities. And that certainty of funding investment is important to give confidence to the sector and investors, in knowing that is a pipeline of funding that is there and is going to be available. But empty homes have an important role to play, as I said earlier, and I'm keen to see a lot more buybacks and acquisitions by councils and RSLs. In a world where new building materials are more scarce and expensive, it makes financial sense, and it also makes practical sense for those individuals who are currently on waiting lists for housing to provide the safe and warm homes that they are in need of. I think it's also important to recognise the challenges, though, in different areas across the country. And I'll start with rural and island areas, and then I'll talk about town centres and urban areas after that. But for rural and island areas, the cost to develop and refurbish empty homes is of course higher. The topography is often challenging, and there are difficulties associated with materials, transport, construction, labour costs, all of that. I mean, we know, however, that every empty home brought back into use can make a huge difference to the sustainability of communities. So we've made £30 million available this parliamentary term for the Rural and Islands Housing Fund, and that's additionality. It's not, they can still access the Affordable Housing Supply Programme, but this is in recognition of some of the extra challenges that can be found. And I'm pleased to see it being used to bring a number of empty homes back into use, and I would encourage that. You might also be aware, well, I hope you're aware, that we're developing a remote rural and island housing action plan, and that'll help us to meet housing needs in these areas and help retain people and attract others to these communities. The plan provides an opportunity to look at the current arrangements, some of the barriers, why it takes so long, for example, and how can we reduce some of those timeframes, and to look at tailored approaches to really help deliver more homes in the right places. And that plan is going to be published in the next few weeks. But in our town centres, we also have a real opportunity to work together to transform them. We're committed to collaboration and partnership working to build on local assets, and really they're key to delivering our town centre vision. And I think to achieve this, the Scottish Government is working closely with communities, local government and third and private sector partners. The Town Centre Action Plan will help embed a town centre first approach to ensure the economic, social and environmental health of town centres is at the heart of decision making. Actions in the plan focus on outcomes to deliver net zero ambitions, enterprising communities, town centre living, better planning, taxation to support net zero, digital skills and support demonstrator towns and 20-minute neighbourhoods. The Scottish Futures Trust will soon publish a report on town centre living, and we're going to use this as a catalyst for further work on the review and delivery of the important outcomes on town centre living. And this includes enabling empty homes to be brought back into use as quality homes in town centres. And we need to think about outside of the box, because there may be buildings within town centres. I was in Dumfries at their South of Scotland convention on Monday, and they were looking at the repurposing of buildings within the town centre, because let's face it, after COVID, we know that working practices have changed, so there may be spaces within town centres that were previously office space or other uses that are, with the best will in the world, maybe not going to come back into that type of use. So are some of those buildings able to be converted into residential use? They won't all be, and they won't all be appropriate, but some of them will. And we want to make that easier, and we want to support local partners to be able to do that. I want to touch on the Strategic Empty Homes Framework finally, which is another great example, I think, of collaboration and partnership working. I know many of you will have attended the evidence gathering sessions to contribute ideas and experience. And I think working together really ensures that we have a framework that offers support and guidance that's also shaped by local perspectives. The framework's really intended to assist local authorities to develop and improve their approach to empty homes by adopting a more strategic approach in terms of policy, partnership, intervention and investment. And I'm really keen to see innovative ideas coming forward, new partnerships being forged and collaborations being developed. I started by saying that we all need to step up our endeavours if we're able to deliver on ambitions for net zero and the provision of good quality housing, and taking a more strategic approach to bringing empty homes back into use will help us do that. Finally, empty homes, as I said earlier, have a key role to play in our endeavour to make better use of existing stock. I know that they can be very challenging sometimes to unlock, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for your hard work in doing so. And as a government, we want to make it easier. We want to use a sensible combination of what I would maybe describe as carrots and sticks to unlock the potential of empty homes, and to work with you to do that. So, you know, I look forward to hearing more about the work that you're doing over the next coming months as we work to take this forward together, and I look forward to any questions that you might have. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks.
Colin, I'd like to thank Shona Robison for her contribution and her continued support for empty homes. I think those of us involved in housing see the massive contribution it can make. Some 43,000 homes empty, and sadly ever increasing challenges with homelessness and temporary accommodation, and it seems like there should be the possibility for a good match there in terms of solving one problem by tackling another. But Shona said, are there any questions that people would like to put to her? I can see I'm getting my eyes blinded by a spotlight at the back, but I can see a lady with a beautiful dress on at the back who'd like to ask a question.
Yes, thank you. My name is Anita Singh, and my question's basically to do with enforcement. So you mentioned encouraging the use of enforcement, and we talked about CPOs. And with CPOs, usually council would have to find a budget to basically make use of a CPO, and we are then thinking that we would like to know if there are thoughts about compulsory sale orders instead of CPOs, because with compulsory sale orders, you're not having to find the money first to find a solution. And we just wanted to know if that was still on the table, and if there was a timeline for that, and if that's something that the current government would encourage to achieve.
Yes, it is. So we are still looking at compulsory sales orders, but we can't underestimate some of the potential legal issues within that. So whatever we do has to be legal, and it has to meet convention rights, so the right to property, ownership, etc. So we have to proceed with caution, and you know, if we're going to be able to use that as a lever. We are, as I said in my remarks, looking at how we can make the CPO route, which is a bit more tried and tested, easier. So we're working on that also. I mentioned carrots and sticks earlier on as well. Now there is a lot of work going on, some joint work with COSLA around how do we disincentivise the holding on to empty properties, and obviously there's some financial levers that we could that local authorities could deploy around, you know, at the moment there's empty homes relief, there's also council tax liability, etc., etc. So I think a basket of measures that encourages people to bring homes back into use. We also need to make it easier for people. So the carrots we're looking at, how could we do more in the space of refurbishment assistance, and that could be with a view to purchasing that empty home, but potentially a long lease for that empty home. So we need to be imaginative about what are the various options. So there's not one solution, there's a variety that might attract someone to say, well, okay, this is going to financially penalise me to hold on to this empty property. It's an asset sitting, you know, and also having a single point of contact sometimes for people to speak to. It's not always that easy to find your way to the right person in the local authority to talk about, you know, your empty home and what you want to do with it. So there's a basket of measures there that I would like to see us, you know, refreshing, reforming, and making it easier for local authorities to use.
Okay, thanks. Could I say too, thanks to the Cabinet Secretary, thanks for the question, first of all, and thanks to the Cabinet Secretary for that reply. We don't have microphones, and we do have people listening online. So could I just ask, please, if you're asking a question, if you could speak in maybe a slightly louder than usual voice so that people can pick that up. But there's a guy at the back there with his hand raised. On you go, yourself, yep.
I was just going to ask about one of the big issues around restoring empty buildings is the VAT issue, and obviously new builds, not that is exempt from VAT, but empty homes aren't.
Yeah.
Is there any discussions around that?
Yeah, so that's a reserved matter, unfortunately. We've been communicating with the UK government to say this doesn't make any sense. You're actually disincentivising repurposing buildings through VAT. It actually came up at the South of Scotland Convention on Monday, that very same issue. So we're pressing the UK government to do that, because I think it would really unlock more potential, and we'll have to just keep plugging away at that. Yeah.
Okay, we maybe have time for
Yeah,
one more.
yeah.
Sean, is that all right?
Yep.
Lady in the blue jacket.
Thanks. Good morning. It's Kelly from Glenbrook Council. You mentioned about rural and island housing, which is a big impact for us in the islands that we have. Is there any other sort of incentives you can, or the government are looking at for second home and holiday let owners in those areas? Because we have a huge amount and they drive up costs, it makes it unaffordable for young people to go on the market, and even if it's empty homes that are being sold in those areas, we're seeing really inflated costs, we're struggling to retain people at the same time, and I just wondered if there's anything the government could do.
Yeah. So, short-term let, control areas and licensing has been an attempt to give local authorities power to be able to do something about particular areas. You can do it as a whole council area, or like Edinburgh have done, or you can do it as a area within the local authority, as they're looking at in terms of Highland and Badenoch and Strathspey, and that enables the control area to have the requirement for change of use and a explicit policy within that control area to try and reduce the loss of homes to second homes. There's other levers that are being looked at around council tax liability. Again, it's that carrots and sticks, isn't it, to try and disincentivise the use of homes as second homes. I mean, we all acknowledge that tourism in areas like Argyll and Bute is really important, so there's always a balance to be struck there. But if the balance goes too far, so that you've got areas that are literally nobody's living in because they're all holiday homes, and that's not a sustainable situation. It's not sustainable for the local school, the local shops. So I don't need to tell you that, you know better than I. So there's not one single measure here, but it's a basket of measures to encourage the use of empty homes as residential use, and to disencourage the use of homes as second homes and short-term lets, as holiday lets. And I think we're putting in place the various policies that we think will strike the right balance there. There's been some good work done in Argyll and Bute in bringing empty homes back into use, and also, if we're looking at small things like practical things like money that can help someone to bring a property up to standard for potential long lease through an RSL or local authority, or indeed to sell to the council. So all of these things are valid and important, but I think I've hopefully given you a flavour of the direction of travel there in recognition of those problems.
Thank you, Shona. You mentioned Argyll and Bute, and later on today we'll hear about Callan Clare's empty home journey, the telly superstars now who inadvertently bought the property at auction in Dunoon. But thank you so much for taking time out this morning, coming along, giving us a great opening to our conference. If we didn't know already, we know the importance of empty homes and the importance of getting them back into use, and we're delighted to hear the vision and the enthusiasm, I guess, of the Scottish Government for the same objective. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Can you thank Shona, please?